everybody. The garage is here. Peter Clayton behind the camera. He's here. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Most importantly, you are here. Thank you for viewing the Court of Public Opinion. Now, this is a beautiful day. Pete, look out that door. Out the garage door. Look at that.
It is.
It is beautiful.
Superb. Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful day. The next time you hear the weather forecasters catastrophizing about the weather in 50 years, oh, they'll tell us exactly what it's going to be like. Terrible. Blah, blah. Remember how this very summer was going to be a shockingly hot, dry summer with desert conditions and temperatures. Bushfires. What rubbish. We have a month of summer left. And it's got to be the mildest, coolest summer I can remember. Not one day, I think. No, one day where the temperature was over 40 degrees. And usually here in South Australia we get about 15, sometimes 20. Over the years, that's the norm. Anyway, I wonder why we have to send a lot of kids to school for the very first time in the hot weather. But we do. But this summer was okay, is okay. 13,000 kids start their school life about now. Monday, some Thursday. Do you remember your first day at school? Do you, Pete?
Yeah, I was terrified.
Oh my God, yes. I would not let my mother out of my sight.
Me too.
The only reason I stayed in that classroom was that they put me by the window and I could look out and see my mother sitting, God bless her, sitting on a bench in the schoolyard.
Charmaine Sims is the only reason I wanted to go back to school.
Who's Charmaine Sims?
I had a crush on her in grade 1.
Oh, well, look, where would we be without crushes on girls in grade 1? God help us. The Prime Minister is booed and heckled when he appeared at the tennis finals. I wonder if he paid $6,000 to go, as most of those people did, apparently. That's what it cost to see the finals. But anyway, about the booing, sir, I don't think you've seen anything yet. But what did he expect? Mind you, I don't know where his political antenna was regarding The Voice. He seemed to think that was going to be straight through. Anyway, I think he lost a bit of political skin on the way through. But that was also interesting. Jim Chalmers, the Treasurer, at the media conference on Monday, somebody asked him, cynically, what is the next on the list of broken promises? Is it going to be negative gearing? Well, the Treasurer gave the same sort of wishy-washy answer. We've got no plans, no discussions on changing the laws controlling negative gearing. Yeah, well, it's funny. I'm inclined, however, on this occasion to believe that promise. Because, you see, most of the Labour Party front bench in Canberra have between 3 and 7 investment properties. And you can look that up. Worth millions, millions. And I would suggest, pardon me, rent it out at a market rate. Probably a high market rate. And I will guess, I will bet that they are all negatively geared. So these people, and not exclusively, we all will do the best we can to look after ourselves. You can just bet they're looking after themselves. So I reckon negative gearing is probably pretty safe. But what does that tell you about the integrity of the Labour Party front bench? And the other thing, that's worth mentioning, seeing as I brought up the subject of negative gearing, in the 1980s, Keating got rid of negative gearing. You might remember that. After, of course, he said he wouldn't. But what happened was so impactful on the rental market that he had to reinstate it. Bet your Labour doesn't remember that. So much for the greatest treasurer, the world's greatest treasurer. There's the bill him as the world's greatest treasurer. You know, the fringe benefits tax imposed upon us because the unions imposed it upon the government. Disgraceful. But keeping in mind that we can't trust these guys, any of them, a story no doubt floated by Jim Chalmers, despite Australians not using cash for transactional purposes, you know, buying and shops and whatnot, we are, according to Jim, hoarding between $56 billion and $81 billion stored wealth, he called it. Precautionary savings, I might be tempted to call them. I don't know. I certainly don't have any money stuck under the bed. But there have been times in our political history where the advice was generally, don't put your money in the bank, put it under the bed. I can't remember. I think that might have been Malcolm Fraser. I can't remember. Anyway, Jimbo wants his banknotes back. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. I have no idea why cash is on the nose. The John Howard inspired Future Fund, well run by Peter Costello. Now there was a treasurer. He's been running this Future Fund for 10 years. I don't know if you've heard this, but it's going to be run by Greg Combay. Greg Combay. Another job for the boys. Yes, I know they all do it. I know that. But that doesn't make it right. But this one is a doozy. Greg Combay, chairman of the Future Fund. He was the head of the ACTU, boss of the unions before entering Parliament. The Future Fund is about capital and the wise investment on the returns of such. The union movement and the labour movement is implacably against such things. Profit and capitalism, I mean, or they say they are. They say they are. I don't know about the investment properties among the front bench of the cabinet. I don't know how they explain that. They probably just don't bring it up. I resent the appointment of Greg Combay, as it's not only arrogant, but stupid. What would this guy know about running a $1 billion investment fund? I'll tell you what his latest gig has been. Currently, well, he might continue to do it, I don't know. But currently he is the chairman of, wait for it, the Labour government's Net Zero Economic Agency. You can look that up too, which oversees the economic transformation from fossil fuel and of course our past prosperity to renewable energy and net zero emissions, which of course is impossible because something like 40% of the emissions come from things like deltas, wetlands, marshes. What are you going to do about that, Greg? Huh? But nevertheless, it's all shorthand for trying to ruin the entire country. Our economy is based on the only things that we have left. Mining, that is, coal, gas and iron ore. Make no mistake, these guys are the same people who signed the Lima Declaration in the 1970s to divest us of our manufacturing industry. These net zero people, they are the coup de grace. What Whitlam didn't do and the unions haven't tried to do, this will achieve. Our uranium, coal, iron ore and gas are all we have left, thanks to Labour. I mean, this should be the stuff of revolution. I'm not advocating that, but I wouldn't have ever been surprised had people reacted. But listen, because I have had a few calls, comments, where people have said to me, what's this Lima Declaration thing you're banging on about? Well, look, would you do this for me? Look, I'll do this. I'll pick this up on the microphone here if I can. I'll Google it. You can do the same thing. What can you tell me about the Lima Declaration? She's not going to talk to me. I'll read it to you, but you can look at it. In 1975, the Whitlam government signed the United Nations Lima Declaration, through which the Australian government sold out, their words, not mine, sold out Australian industries and workers by specifically agreeing to transfer manufacturing to third world countries, supposedly to help them develop. That's treason. And the trade union movement helped Whitlam do it. And that's the sort of thing that would get you stood up in front of a firing squad, I would think. Anyway, look, do me a favour, Google it, find out, Lima Declaration, find out, you read it, you tell me why this is not a disgrace that we all, as Australians, proud Australians, should be talking about. Craig James, chief economist with ComSec, which is the Commonwealth Bank, you know, the economic think tank people. I'm going to try and get him on the show on Friday. Craig James, very good people. I'm just trying to think. The last time I saw Craig was in this very room, the garage, when we were doing the Court of Public Opinion on Channel 44. I remember he came in with a couple of his people and we had a long discussion about the economy. But I digress. Craig James, he has said, through his think tank, that South Australia is the #1 best performing economy in the country. Wow! Now this rating system has been going for 15 years. We have never been #1 before. Apparently, it is all thanks to population growth. Population growth. Oh, maybe. I'm not an economist, but think where we could be with a better government. Think where we could be if we scrap payroll tax. You know, the government imposed tax on employment. Wow. What we could not do in this state. Mind you, we don't have a lot of manufacturing, thanks to, well, yes, you guessed it, the Lima Declaration. Anyway, by the way, the ABC, got to talk about this if I've got the time. The ABC, you can call it what you like, the National Broadcaster, the Aboriginal Broadcasting Corporation, the Gay BC, tell you something you don't hear often these days, and that's Auntie. I remember when the ABC was always called Auntie. A bit like the BBC was called Beep. The Beep. Anyway, Auntie, it's a nice, friendly, benign sort of name, isn't it? I wonder why we don't hear that anymore. Auntie, it's sort of, I guess, been a bit hijacked by, I don't know if it's the media or Aboriginals, but the word auntie and uncle. Aboriginals have lots of aunties and uncles. So, I mean, that sort of came into prominence about the same time people stopped referring to the ABC as auntie. Anyway, I'm going to go back to calling the ABC auntie. A new three-part hatchet job, series on the 9 years that the Libs were in power. Tony Abbott, Malcolm Turnbull and Scott Morrison. Mark Willesee, son of the famous left-wing Mike Willesee, whose father, in fact, was a Labor senator from Western Australia. He is behind it. And now make no mistake, there is no pretense here at impartiality. Auntie, you've done it again. The ACCC, after a year-long investigation, says that they will put in a steward. I don't know exactly what that means. I mean, what is it, a watchdog? Anyway, a steward to watch the childcare industry. All that money, all that time, that inquiry, nothing. We'll put in someone to have a watch over this industry. You could have done that on day one and saved us $10 million. Hey, let me spell it out for you. The problem, the fly in the ointment. Every time the government puts money, our taxpayer money, into childcare to make it cheaper, the prices go up again. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to work out. Join the dots. It's a dog chasing its tail. Are you people stupid? Join the dots. Stop causing the problem. And if you want to come back to basics, no one forces any of us to have children. You have children, you're responsible for them, not the taxpayer. I would have thought that would have been fairly simple to get hold of. Are you going to run that picture that the farmer...
Yes.
You know, we're all familiar with the Maori man.
Yes.
Nobody quite knows how the Maori man came about. But here, a farmer, I don't know whether he did it with satellites or laser printing or what, but there's a great picture. If you haven't seen it, we'll show it to you at the end of this show. This farmer, for Australia Day, he ploughed this great outline of the coast of Australia with a great big flag in the middle. And I don't know who you are, sir, but congratulations. I am in awe and have great respect for you. Thank you. Now, happy birthday, if it's your birthday or if it's your wedding anniversary. Hope it's been a nice day, or depending on what time you're viewing this and where you're viewing it. Here, where I am, it's the 31st of January. Barely a month of summer left. Golly, summer. 1905, the first automobile, 1905, the first automobile to exceed 100 kilometres an hour, that's 161 k's, by the way. His name was A.G. MacDonald, Daytona Beach. I don't have a note as to what the car was, but there wouldn't have been many. I mean, what do you reckon, Peter? Ford?
I would think a Ford would be most likely.
Yeah. Sticky tape was invented. Yeah. Scotch tape, as they called it, first marketed by the 3M company, 1928, on this day. A.A. Milne dies at 74 on this day in 1956. Ham, the chimpanzee, the first primate in space. The Mercury, 158 miles up there. And I've got no note here as to whether he got back safely. I'm assuming he did. 1961. The magnetic tape recorder was developed by not Huawei, but a company called Wireway back in 1948. Because you see, before that, and I've seen a couple of them, they had not tape recorders, they had wire recorders. And don't ask me how the wire worked. I barely understand how the magnetic tape worked. South African President P.W. Botha offers a free pardon to Nelson Mandela if he denounces violence. I would have thought that pretty reasonable, seeing as he spent most of his early years making bombs. Anyway, that was back in 1985. That's not to say he probably didn't have cause to make bombs. But, you know, you don't want to hang around a country that has apartheid, like, you know, one rule for the blacks, one rule for the whites. What we stand for in the court of public opinion, of course, is one rule for everybody, regardless of his or her colour. But that is not the belief of some. Guy Fawkes, the English Catholic conspirator convicted of the gunpowder plot, tried to blow up the British Parliament. Not that it didn't deserve it. Anyway, they hanged him. He was only 35. 1606 was the year. Congress passes a vote. That's 121 to 24. The 13th Amendment of the United States Constitution, abolishing slavery in America. 1865. RCA demonstrates the first musical synthesizer. It wasn't the Moog, obviously. 1955. Sam Goldwyn, the Polish-born Jewish-American film producer. Best Years of Our Lives. And, golly, Gone with the Wind and so many others. He dies of natural causes at 91. 1974 was the year. Spent a lot of his time punishing the English language. You know? Things like, include me in. And when he was on a movie. Well, that's where David Niven got the name for his book. I don't know. I think it was The Charge of the Light Brigade, wasn't it? And Sam Goldwyn said, bring on the empty horses. Well, they are empty, aren't they, Pete? What do you call a horse that doesn't have a rider on it?
Oh, I would have said riderless, but...
Oh, right. Well, he's... Bring on the empty horses. The first McDonald's in the Soviet Union opens in Moscow, 1990, closed now due to the invasion of Ukraine. Oh, lovely old Charlie Thomas, American pop singer. He was with the Drifters. You remember the Drifters, 58 to 67. Sweets for My Sweet, Save the Last Dance for Me. Died at 85 on this day in 2023. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for viewing the Court of Public Opinion. Have a look in a second at this farmer's tribute to Australia. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Peter Clayton and I will be back tomorrow. Believe in yourself. And thank you for viewing the Court of Public Opinion.